Welcome to week 7. This week the focus is on killing microbes inside the body rather than outside. I think because we've never known anything but a world with antibiotics, it's hard for us to imagine how precarious life was 70 years ago when there was very little a doctor could do for any type of infection. There's still very little to be done for viral diseases, which usually don't respond to antibiotics. And there's not that many antivirals. That's one reason we have so many vaccines directed against viruses. It's much easier to prevent viral diseases than it is to cure them. We will learn about antibiotics and how they work and the tests we can do in the lab to predict how they would work in the patient. We meet the men who discovered the first antibiotics, and in the case of Alexander Fleming and Gerhard Domag, how their experiences during World War I affected them. Although they were on opposite sides of the war, they shared the common experience of watching more men die from infections than on the battlefield. That has been the case for every single war we've ever fought until World War II, and the thing that changed was access to the miracle of penicillin. We're doing a virtual lab, which is very similar to what we would have done in person, measuring and recording the zones of inhibition caused by various antibiotics on 3 different bacterial species. This is a test called the Kirby-Bauer or the antibiotic disk diffusion. We're going to all contribute to a chart of antibiotics that will be a great resource for the upcoming weeks. Each student researches 3 antibiotics, and then we organize them in a chart and hopefully cover most of them. I also invite you, if you see a new antibiotic being used in your institution or an old one that's coming back, we can add that to our chart as well. We're all experts of a sort when it comes to antibiotics. We've probably all taken them, or given them to somebody we love, or to a patient, and then hopefully watch that person recover. The discussion board this week deals with hospital-acquired infections and how antibiotics are used, both appropriately and inappropriately. I would love to read about your experiences. If you work in a healthcare setting, what bacteria are you seeing most often? Are those bacteria showing any signs of developing resistance? What antibiotics do you see used a lot, and do you see unfortunate side effects from their overuse? This week, you should have gotten your corrected draft from the second round of our Teach the Class slides back. You can look in your My Grades folder to find it and see my feedback. Post the corrected version of the slides in the Google Drive by Thursday at midnight so I can make the next Teach the Class presentations. I got about 15 students to give me feedback, either with a survey or an online meeting, and I don't see any strong patterns. Most people felt that things were going okay and didn't want any drastic changes. I think once you get used to something, you don't want, because it may be worse, right? So most people want to leave it like it is. Some people like the virtual labs, some people don't, and I agree, because sometimes it's just some stupid little thing you can't figure out on your computer how to do. But I don't have a whole lot of control over those labs, because there's not that many virtual labs that we have access to. So I think there'll probably be maybe 3 more virtual labs, and then the rest is going to be PowerPoints that you go through and either take a quiz on. Somebody suggested doing worksheets so that maybe as you listen to the lab, you can pause it and write in the worksheet. And we could try that and see if that's a good way to submit your lab reports. Oh, let's see what else. Some people complain about the tests, the quizzes, and they say it makes them nervous because they don't like being timed, but you're going to have to get used to that. So there will be many, many timed tests in your future. And the way you get better at them is by practicing them. And the stakes here are really low. Like, these points are not significant. And with your lab quizzes, you have 2 chances. So I want to keep doing it because I think it's good for you to practice. What else? Somebody said, we don't do anything with notable scientists. Couldn't we stop listening to that? But that's really important because I'm setting you up for the final week when you won't have to take a big exam, but we have to do what's called summative assessments. So it's your final exam. So your final exam might be a discussion board that you write about notable scientists, or it might be a discussion board from the interesting articles. So I'm sticking those interesting articles whenever I find one that I can't fit in anywhere else. I put it in there. You will probably have to do a flow chart. So you need to learn how to do those things. And we're going to practice that a little bit more. Some people wanted fewer discussion boards, but I think those are really important too because that's the only time we get to talk to each other. I do want you to try to beef up the comments that you make to one another. I can't really give you full points for that if all you're doing is 2 sentences and you tell somebody, I really liked your post, or good job on your post. You have to add something. Think about like when you raise your hand in class, you're going to say something important, right? Or you're going to ask a question that's really compelling. So when you make a comment to somebody, it should be like that. Like, I want to point this out, or I liked what you said, but there's even more to this, or I liked what you said, but I want you to think about something else, you know. So that's what these should be. You're welcome to ask questions, but please don't ask somebody a question Sunday at 9 o'clock at night because they're not going to see it and have time to answer you back. So if you want to make some comment and ask a question, ask it early enough that they will have time to see it and reply. That's the main thing. I would just like to see some more meat in those comments. Now we buckle down and do the second third of our course. I have to turn in midterm grades on Friday, so I'm going to grade everything that you submitted on Monday and put those grades in your average. Most people are doing really well, and if you're doing your work and you're getting things turned in on time, your average is great. I have just a couple people that are not responding, but I think out of 30 people, that's pretty good to only have a couple. You will get a satisfactory on your midterm grade as long as you have a 70% or higher, and I think almost the whole class is doing much better than that. So grade-wise, I'm really not worried about you. I think everybody's doing really well. You know, you don't have to wait for me to ask for feedback. You can email me and tell me, or you can say, this is what you're doing that confuses me. And please, if you're struggling with something, don't just struggle with it and get frustrated. Email me or put something in that discussion board that's for questions. And as soon as I see it, I'll answer. I usually answer pretty fast. You could call me. We could have a phone conversation. So please don't think you need to wait to tell me that something's not working for you. I'd love to know how you're doing, and we'll try to figure something out that would work for both of us. And I think that's it for the week. And it's beautiful. I went for a walk this morning. I hope you enjoy this beautiful fall weather. This is why we live in Connecticut, right? It's so pretty. Okay, guys. See you later. Bye.